Welcome back to the channel. I trust that you're doing well. We have some interesting news for the XRP holders that we'll be looking at in this video. We also have Hyperliquid outperforming Solana and Ethereum in the last 24 hours. And we have Trump being challenged by a reporter in a press briefing about his crypto positions. So we'll be taking a look at that as well. So stick around and let's get into the video. And starting out in CoinMarketCap, we are seeing a little bit of green begin to take shape here, but nothing too significant to be fair. If we look up at the top here, we can see that the overall market cap of crypto is actually down almost 1% to 3.33 trillion. But we do see the 24-hour trade volume at 99.8 billion, which is up 34%. So that's quite interesting. And we see Bitcoin dominance still ticking along at about 64%. If I bring in the Bitcoin dominance chart, we can see that the Bitcoin dominance is down a little bit today, but nothing too meaningful. I mean, for a legitimate alt season, as I've mentioned in past videos, what we're looking for is we're looking for Bitcoin dominance just to fall off a cliff. And eventually it does, usually later on in the cycle. Sometimes you get these little seasons along the way, like this one here, and maybe a little bit here. But as you can see, generally speaking, Bitcoin dominance just remains in a nice, strong uptrend to the upside. Moving right along to so-so value, this is the Ethereum net inflows and outflows for the ETFs. We can see that there was a negative day of outflows. That was on June 30th, where we saw 342 million of outflows for Ethereum. But on July 1st, we saw 407 million worth of positive inflows. And then on July 2nd, we saw 601 million of positive inflows for the Ethereum ETFs. Moving right along to the altcoin season index, interestingly enough, this has jumped up to a 29. So you can see anything below the 25 read on the y-axis of the chart is certainly Bitcoin summer and altcoin winter. Anything above a 75 on the y-axis is certainly altcoin season. So we still have a long ways to go to altcoin season according to this chart. But interestingly enough, you can see it's just been way down here in Bitcoin season. And well, it's just jumped up to a 29. So we'll keep our eyes on that. And we have some interesting news for the XRP holders out there. This is a post from Cointelegraph saying that Ripple CEO Brad Garlinghouse will testify before the Senate Banking Committee on Wednesday to advocate for crypto market structure legislation in the US. So Brad Garlinghouse is certainly going to get the opportunity to contribute to the economy of ideas right before the Banking Committee on Wednesday. So interesting news for the XRP holders. Moving right along, we have another post here from Cointelegraph saying that Hyperliquid generated 1.7 million in fees over the past 24 hours, surpassing Solana, Ethereum, and Bitcoin in daily transaction fees. We can see it right here on the chart. Check that out. Hyperliquid having a really good day in transaction fees, getting above Solana and Ethereum there, and even Bitcoin. So very interesting news for Hyperliquid. And we have an interesting post here from Unusual Whales where Trump was getting asked at a press briefing recently here, are you open to the idea of pulling away from your personal crypto ventures just for the next 2 years if that helps get these crypto bills passed? And Trump responded with, I became a fan of crypto and to me it's an industry and I'm president. And if we didn't have it, China would. But there's certainly a lot more to this. Let's go ahead and give this a playthrough.
Thank you, Mr. President. On a related subject, many Democrats have said that they are not going to support crypto bills in Congress only because of you and your family's personal crypto ventures. And these votes are in some cases needed to pass. Are you open to the idea of pulling away from your personal crypto ventures just for the next few years if that helps get these crypto bills passed in the next few months?
Well, it's a very funny thing, crypto. So I became a fan of crypto, and to me it's an industry. I view it as an industry, and I'm president. And if we didn't have it, China would, or somebody else would, but most likely China. China would love to. And we've dominated that industry. It's a big industry, by the way. In fact, when the stock market went down recently, crypto and Bitcoin and all of that went down much less than anybody else as a group. And we've created a very powerful industry, and that's much more important than anything that we invest in. We invest in it, but really that was an industry that wasn't doing particularly well. I got involved with it a couple of years ago. And before the second term, I got involved before I decided to run. I only decided to run because I saw what was happening, and Biden was incompetent, and the administration was crooked and incompetent. And I was in Bitcoin then, not knowing if I was going to do it a third time. So it's become amazing. I mean, it's the jobs that it produces. And I notice more and more you pay in Bitcoin. I mean, people are saying it takes a lot of pressure off the dollar. And it's a great thing for our country. So I don't care about investing. You know, I have I have kids and they invest in different things. They do believe in it. but I'm president, and what I did do there is build an industry that's very important. And if we didn't have it, China would. Okay.
And that's what Trump had to say earlier today at a press conference. And it sure is interesting times to see crypto being used as a political football. But always remember this, no matter which side of the aisle that you're on, Bitcoin doesn't need them, they need Bitcoin. And taking a look at the price action of Ethereum on a weekly time frame, because Ethereum just closed this green weekly candle just yesterday. That candle body closed at approximately 2,570, but it did close higher than all these candle bodies prior to it. Since then, Ethereum has come down and has put in a little bit of a test of the red 10 simple moving average right here, and is currently trading up above it. Now, this weekly candle still has 6 days remaining, so it remains to be seen if Ethereum can continue to hold above that 10 simple moving average. Dropping into the daily time frame, we can see that on the daily time frame, Ethereum today did come down again, tested the 10 simple. We see that there's a 30 simple living there as well. But this is interesting. What we're seeing here is we're seeing Ethereum begin to open and close several candles above that white 200 simple moving average. But unlike back here, when we had those candle bodies closing, we also see that the moving averages are beginning to chase price action through that white 200 simple moving average. So the bulls do seem to be gaining a little bit of strength here as Ethereum gets above that 200. And as the saying goes, nothing good happens below the 200. When Ethereum closed below that 200 back here on a daily time frame, it was just absolute wrecked city all the way down into the crypto abyss. So seeing it getting up above that 200 simple moving average and seeing the other moving averages, the lower periods, begin to chase price action through there is starting to look a lot better for Ethereum. We do see the 377 is still harassing price action there, so we need to see Ethereum start closing up above that as well. The 377 is currently coming in at 2,574, so it'd be good to see Ethereum start closing up above that level. I did put this purple box in the chart. That is marking this liquid zone here just above this pivot. So the bottom side of that purple box is marking the candle bodies here at a price point of approximately 2,818, and as a top side marking that wick coming in at 2,879. If Ethereum starts popping up above there, closing daily candle bodies above that purple box and holding it, then the bulls are going to be picking up some significant momentum at that point in time. I could also see something else that's interesting here, so let's go ahead and just bring up the moving averages for a second. We're going to go ahead and turn off all these guys, and I see something that could be coming in the near future for Ethereum, and that is a potential golden cross between the exponential 55 and the 200. You can see when we got the death cross back here, price action did try to pull into a little bit, like usually that's a little bit magnetic, but you can see that Ethereum just sold off to the downside. But now we're very close to getting a golden cross between those two, and perhaps we get some serious bullish momentum if and when that takes place, but we're pretty close there. So things are starting to look a little bit better for Ethereum. Back here, that's likely the low, but that still remains to be seen, of course. Now, for a bias buster to the downside, if Ethereum was to begin to roll over from here and take out this pivot here, then this chart will still be under a little bit of pressure, at least for the midterm. These candle bodies are coming in around 2,404, and these wicks are coming in around 2,373. So if Ethereum starts closing dailies below those levels there, then the bears will still be putting up a bit of a struggle at that point in time. And jumping into the price action of Solana on a daily time frame, and right now Solana is just basically trying to catch its footing here. We see that recently it did come up and challenge the white 200 simple moving average. In all fairness, it did get a daily candle body closure up above there, but the very next day that was coughed back up right here. Solana tried to find its footing off the 21, challenged it again, and then ultimately went in this little tiny downtrend here. And then ever since then, Solana's been trying to find its footing. Basically, for a bullish bias on Solana, what I'm looking for is I want to see it get above that 200 simple moving average first and foremost. As you can see, the 200 is now coming into confluence with this pivot right here, and that was the last known pivot where Solana had a pretty decent sell-off to the downside. So the 200 right now and that pivot is coming in at a price point of 165. So first of all, I want to see Solana closing some dailies up above 165. Maybe we'll call it 166 just to be safe, on good volume down below, of course. Getting that done, then Solana will be posturing itself to come and challenge this pivot back here. Getting above this level, then this chart here for Solana starts to look really good again. So let's go ahead and just actually mark something out here. I'll grab a rectangle. Let's go ahead and mark this out like so. And we'll stick it on the chart like this. And now what we're looking at here is we are looking at this purple box that is marking out the candle bodies right here and this wick right here. So a liquid zone, if you will. The bottom side of that purple box is coming in at 183.80 and a top side is coming in at 187.48. So over time, if Solana starts to close some daily candle bodies and hold above that purple box, then this chart is going to be looking a lot better. You'd have this low right here, which is likely the low for Solana. Let's give it a chance here. Then you'd have this high here. You'd have a higher low at that point. Then, of course, getting up above there would be creating a higher high. So we would start to see this become a daily uptrend at that point in time. And Solana would be looking a lot stronger. So that's what I'd be watching out for a bullish bias for Solana. Now, for a bearish bias, if price action was to roll over from here and start getting below this pivot here, then the bears would still be applying a fair amount of pressure to this chart. And let's just go ahead and we'll mark that bottom side out here too. Let's go ahead and mark those bodies. We'll mark this wick like this, and we'll keep it on the chart for future analysis. So basically, if Solana was to come down and break below this purple box, then the bears would still be in pretty good control of this chart. The top side of that purple box is coming in at about 131.45 and a bottom side coming in at about 126.39. So not a super good look if Solana starts closing down below the bottom side of that box. But that all remains to be seen. Right now, you can see that Solana is basically dead center between this purple box here and the white 200 simple moving average. If the bulls want to start taking over, get it up above that 200. If the bears are going to remain in control, we would need to see price action sell off and actually break down below that purple box. So that's how things are looking for Solana in its current posturing. And jumping into the price action of XRP on a daily time frame, and we can see that XRP just today actually challenged the white 200 simple moving average. It has since rejected from there, but the daily candle still has 4 hours remaining from the time I'm making this video. If I look over here on my watch list, I can see XRP is actually one of the only positive coins at the time of recording here. We can see it's above a lot of the other major moving averages right here, and it is in a pretty good position to get above that 200. Of course, just like any other asset, I want to see it trading above that 200 on daily candle body closing basis. So that 200 is coming in at $2.36. So if we start seeing some daily candle bodies closing above that 200, then it's going to be looking good for XRP from a price action perspective for the midterm. Getting up above there will likely initiate a test of this pivot right here. So let's go ahead and mark that one out. I'll grab a good old purple box. Let's grab the candle bodies there. We'll grab those wicks like this, and we've got ourselves another liquidity zone. So the bottom side of that purple box is coming in at approximately $2.58, and the top side coming in at $2.65. So the first thing we need to see, XRP getting up above that 200. If that happens and it holds, then the next big test for XRP is going to be getting above that purple box. Again, has the top side of $2.65. Getting daily candle body closures above that purple box and holding above that purple box, and then it would be fair to say that probability really favors the bulls at that point in time. So we'll see what happens with XRP. Now, if the bears were to take over this chart, like say some bad news comes into the market, Bitcoin selling off, everything's selling off, then XRP would probably be no exception to that. And if we saw XRP coming down and taking out this pivot right here, then the bears would be putting up a struggle at that point in time. So those candle bodies right here come in at $2 and a penny, and the bottom of this wick comes in at $1.91. So if the bears were able to take over from here and push the price action down below this pivot, then XRP would still be under a little bit of pressure from a price action perspective. We do see that the 377 is right here, and that's coming in at a price point of $1.79. So if XRP starts taking out this wick here, it's likely going to test that 377 on a daily time frame, but of course, one step at a time here. So that's kind of how things are looking for XRP. If the bulls are going to continue their march higher, we want to see this getting above that 200, of course, and ultimately above this purple box, and then the bulls will be gaining a lot of momentum. I can see when I look left that there's still some areas of interest on this chart, but we'll worry about that if and when the bulls get it above that purple box, which is likely going to happen. I mean, if crypto starts moving to the upside and good news comes into the market, then there's no reason why XRP wouldn't catch a bid from that. But if we see some selling or bad news or whatever and the bears take over, then I'd probably be watching that pivot as I mentioned before, and that would initiate a test likely of about $1.79. So that would be an area that I'd be watching under those circumstances. And there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. That does it for this one. So what are your thoughts? Are you bullish on the market? Are you bearish? What do you think is going to be happening in the midterm? Share your comments down below. Thanks so much for coming by and checking out this video. Looking forward to seeing you in the next one. And until I do, have yourself a powerful day.